I have one question for you. What's happening in your neighborhood? Good morning. I'm Carlton Sharp, pastor of Faith Christian Center Church, right here in Beaumont, Texas. And we're here on what's happening in our neighborhood. And today, my special guest is Dr. Mark Portery of the Port Arthur Independent School District. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Dr. Sharp. How are you?
Doing wonderful, doing wonderful. Hey, listen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Dr. Mark Portery, and I serve as the superintendent for the Port Arthur Independent School District. I am a native Port Arthuran, born and reared right here. Joined the military, was the only time that I actually left. Came back, started teaching 29 years ago, and been here ever since, from teacher to superintendent. It's been a wonderful journey. I'm glad to be here during this COVID time. Was here during Rita, was here during Harvey, Imelda, and now through COVID. So it's been a journey. So it's okay.
Hey, Doc, this is uncharted territory for just about everybody. Nobody has been through a pandemic before, and I'm sure that
Exactly.
It's a challenge for you.
Exactly. It's a challenge, but one thing we were talking with our team on yesterday, the good thing about it all, if you're looking for positives, is that we're able to talk about curriculum and how to instruct our students using the creativity of our teachers. For so long, we've had to focus on testing. You know, we have the STAR tests, we have the end of course tests, but since March, we've been thinking about how do we deliver instruction using the creative minds of teachers. So that has been absolutely wonderful, and the conversations have been great. It's about time that we talk about curriculum and not about testing.
Okay, Doc, I got a whole series of questions for you about what's going on in the school district. So what guidance have you received from the governor or the TEA to develop your reopening plan?
Well, we've received guidance from our governor. We've received guidance from our Commissioner Mike Morath. Superintendents in Texas have meetings with Dr. Morath on Tuesdays and Thursdays, every Tuesday and Thursday. So we're very, very pleased with what he has given us in a way of direction. We've had several waivers that they have allowed us to take, and that has helped the school district. And we're moving forward with the directions of our leaders. Obviously, we're listening to the governor, we're listening to our commissioner and our health officials, both federal and local health officials, trying to guide us as to how we reopen schools. Obviously, it's fluid. There are a lot of changes that are happening daily. So we do have a plan, but we're following the changes and we're flexible. One thing that I think superintendents are looking at is what is best for their own community. Even with the guidance, we still have to be specific as to what is best for our children within the Port Arthur Independent School District. No district is alike. So whatever we're doing, we're having to focus in on Port Arthur students. So it's been helpful guidance that has been given to us.
So what is your current date of reopening schools?
The current date for reopening schools will be Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. Next week, today, we are starting with our registration. July 15th at 8 o'clock this morning, we have kicked off registration, and we are asking every parent in our community to register their children if they're newcomers or they've been here. It doesn't matter. We need to know we have to get some information. First of all, we need to get the information, a good email, a good address, and phone number. We learned from the closure of COVID that we did not have good communication with our parents as we thought we had. So now we're trying to clean up a lot of things that are out there. And then parents will have to let us know whether their children will receive instruction face-to-face, asynchronous, or synchronous. It's a parent's choice, but the data will help us to move forward with how we welcome our children back on August the 18th.
Okay, Doc, that was going to be my next question. Will they have the option to do face-to-face or distance learning? And if they do distance learning, will the school district provide hotspots for the students?
That has been a question as to what the district is going to do. Yes, parents have a choice. They can, as I said, face-to-face instruction where children will return, and they will return with masks. Both staff and students will have masks. We have temperature checks. We're going to social distance. We're going to do everything that the CDC has asked us to do. Also, there's a choice of synchronous, where there is a number of minutes per day that students will receive instruction. Elementary, 180 minutes. Secondary, 240 minutes a day. That is actually that we actually have to do for instruction. Also, the asynchronous, where students will not have that one-on-one all day long with teachers, but they will have to complete assignments. So now the hotspots, we're looking at how we can get hotspots. That is not a definite. I know there's a committee that's working through the state of Texas that's trying to get hotspots for students across the state. And I'm almost positive that's not going to be complete by the time we start school. So we are asking parents to look into how they can purchase devices for their students and purchase hotspots for their children in our community. Now, we understand if a parent has multiple children, 3, 4, 5 children, that will be a bit of a charge, but we want them to at least consider purchasing half. If they purchase 2, maybe we can get 3 for their children, but it's important that every child has access to a computer, because obviously when school begins, that every child will be logged on basically the same time during the day. So it's going to be difficult for students to be able to share a device. They will have to have their own device in order to be successful with the learning instruction of our district.
Now, for face-to-face instructions, Doc, are you dependent on staff and students to self-report if they have symptoms of COVID-19?
Absolutely. We're depending on our parents. We need our parents to check their children every morning, which parents should do anyway. This is nothing new. Parents wake up in the morning, or should wake up in the morning with their kids. They should ask them how they're doing. They should touch their foreheads underneath their chin, as our parents did. How are you feeling? Are you clammy? Is your stomach upset? Let's figure out what's going on before you leave the home. And then once a student and staff member comes to school, we will have infrared thermometers that will take temperatures of everyone walking through our doors. We understand that we work in the Port Arthur Independent School District with adults, and we're looking to them to be truthful and let us know when they're sick. We don't want them to come to work if they're sick, and they need to adhere to that. We don't want students coming to work, school, and we don't want staff members coming to school if they're ill, because we're going to try to mitigate, as I said, as much as we possibly can. And we don't want them to bring anything back home to their families. We respect families, and we want everyone to be safe. So yes, and then when they get here, you will have a mask. Both staff and students will have a mask. We're going to make sure that every student has a mask at the beginning, the first week, but then we're going to rely on staff members and parents to purchase a mask. They're affordable, and yes, you can make a mask if you choose. The mask, people are making masks all over the United States. So yes, we are going to rely on our parents, our students, and our staff members to what we may say police themselves in order to be able to come back to work and come back successfully.
Well, since school starts on the 18th, do you recommend that parents and staff go and get tested prior to August the 4th for that 14-day window?
Well, let me say this. I think that's what we may call, that's a decision for everyone to make for themselves. Now, I'm going to say this. If you don't have symptoms, if you haven't been around anyone that you think you've been exposed to, I can't tell you to go out there and become tested, to get tested. I think if you've been exposed, if you feel you've been exposed, then yes, you need to. But if you're not feeling bad, and obviously you could be asymptomatic and not have any symptoms, but I think that's up to each and every individual to, if it's for a mindset, then yes. But we have to remember that it's not just testing that's going to help us. We can get tested on Monday, but Monday evening, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can become infected. So it tells you at that point that you're COVID free. But the other 2 weeks, like you said, they get tested before August 4th. But then what about the other 14 days before you come back to work? Where have you been? Have you masked down? Have you stayed at home? Have you been very, very careful not to go into places where there are 10 or more people? Are you at the beach? Are you camping? Are you doing all these things that are not recommended by the CDC in order to stay healthy? So it's not just schools. We're going to do everything that we can to mitigate and keep everyone safe while at school. But it's up to us when we leave school, when we go home. Are we doing what we need to do in order to keep ourselves safe when we're home, when we're in the grocery stores, when we're around other people? Are we wearing masks? Are we reminding others to wear masks when they're with us? So there are things that we all have to do in order to stay safe.
Okay, Doc, earlier you mentioned that you will be monitoring staff and students as they arrive to school. What happens
Correct.
to the person, the staff or student, who arrives and they monitor and their temperature is out of range?
Okay. When a student or a staff member walks through the door, their temperature will automatically be taken. And if the temperature is elevated, then they will be asked to come into an isolated room where our nurse will take over at that time. Every school has a nurse, and they will ask questions and try to get to the bottom of why the temperature is high. Now, we're not going to say every time a temperature is elevated that that's COVID, but we definitely have to take the precautions that it may be. And our nurses will take over and do what they do as medical professionals.
Okay, so let's just say that a student has made it through the process of early morning getting monitored, but they get in class, they feel ill, and you find out that that student has or staff member have COVID-19. What do you do with the rest of the class?
Once again, and you know what? You're bringing up things that we talked about on yesterday. There are millions of scenarios. And actually, what you just described is what we described yesterday. What happens in the middle of the day when a student or staff member becomes ill in that classroom? Well, what we would do is remove the student, obviously. And then it has been recommended that we would take the class or the student to an isolated area. Obviously, that student would go to an isolated area. But I think if a class is seated there and the teacher is seated there, then that classroom automatically becomes the isolated area, because it doesn't make sense to move an entire class to an isolated area and try to clean and disinfect the class that they're in. So what we would do is keep them there. We would have to start the tracking process of how many of those students have been exposed to the student, how long the student was exposed. Are there brothers and sisters on other campuses that we have to contact? We would start contacting parents and letting them know, and to have them picked up from a location within the school. So there is a process that we would take if that should happen. And I'm almost positive it will happen multiple times during the school year.
So will that whole class need to be quarantined, and the siblings of the person that was infected?
The siblings of the one that's infected, most definitely. Now, we're going to recommend that the class become tested. Now, we're not going to definitely say 14 days, because if between 3 and 5 days there are no symptoms, and each of those individual class members can bring us proof that they've been tested and it's a negative, then those students will be allowed to come back along with the staff member as well.
Okay, so what happens to the classroom?
Oh, definitely, the classroom is cleaned and disinfectant. We're not just cleaning anymore. We're deep cleaning and disinfecting the classroom immediately once that happens. It's not going to be something that we just allow to stay and come back the next day. We do have all of the machinery that's necessary that we will be cleaning and disinfecting, definitely.
Now, do you have enough PPE, personal protective equipment, for the district?
Well, the state of Texas commissioner, along with our governor, has given us PPEs. We're receiving, as a matter of fact, on July 21st, we're going to receive 76,000 masks. We're receiving sanitizers. We're receiving shields, gloves. So we will have that to start off the year. Now, 76,000 masks seem like a lot of masks, but that's not a lot when you're talking about 10,000 people in a district. And the numbers are based on the size of your district. And that's going to run out really, really quickly. So we're asking if the masks are part of our supply list, our school supply list, along with devices and sanitizers. So we're looking to parents to order masks for their kids and for their students, and for staff members to order masks or get masks made for themselves. We're going to have masks on hand for those that don't have on a particular day, but we cannot afford to supply masks and PPEs throughout the entire year for everyone that needs a mask or some type of PPE. So we're going to start off that way. We're going to do our very best to keep it on hand. But this is a community. This is a worldwide spread. It's not just a Port Arthur Independent School District spread, and we're working as a team, and everyone has to work together in order to mitigate the spread of this virus.
Now, what policies are you putting in place to limit access to the campuses?
Well, obviously, parents are not allowed in. We welcome parental communication. We welcome parental parents coming in and eating breakfast with their students and lunch with their kids. But for this time, for a time such as these, parents will drive up and they will kiss their children, tell them to have a wonderful day, and the student will have to get out of the car and walk in alone. Even pre-K 3-year-olds, we're going to simulate a lot of this. Our media specialist, Mrs. Kristen Cathy, is going to have models on our website that will allow parents to see how does a regular day look in the Port Arthur Independent School District. We're trying to formalize and get some students and teachers to come and just model how does a day look in the Port Arthur Independent School District. We're going to have some animations on how parents are to bring their children to school, how students are to wait at the bus stop, how they're to get on the bus, get off the bus, come into the classroom, come into the schools. So we're going to try to have all of these answered before the 18th. We're going to have it all on the website, and we're going to answer as many questions and try to give our community a visual of how the school district will look on that particular day. But absolutely, the doors will be locked. So we're not accepting any visitors. We have to do this, and I'm sure parents want our schools to be safe as well. They don't want people in and out, tracking in and out. So we're going to have to do it, and parents are going to have to work with us in order for it to be successful. And thank God we have new facilities, renovated facilities. So we do have a means where we can stop people at the door. So that's a good thing.
So that means that parent-teacher conference will be online.
Parent-teacher conference will be virtual. We will look at you through a computer, and we will let you know everything you need to know via the internet. We will, and basically with our new management system, Schoology, which we've purchased and working through, parents will be able to know everything daily what their children are doing, what the assignments are, what the assessments are. If they have questions, they will be able to text or email teachers. They will be able to talk to teachers daily. And really, the communication is going to be much more clear this year. So there are a lot of positives that are coming out of this, actually, than having to see a parent once or twice a year in elementary during parent-teacher conferences. We will be able to talk to them every day. And virtually, while students are online with teachers for instruction, parents may be in the background learning what their children are learning on that particular day, so they can help them when they get offline. Parents will have to understand the math process, which is much different from when they were taught how to teach reading, how to teach English in order to help their students when they get offline. So yes, we tell our teachers all the time they have to be on their A game every day, because the world is going to be out there to see how well we do our job, how we instruct our students. Everything is online. It's for anyone to see, and it's going to be a terrific time for us to show exactly what the Port Arthur Independent School District has and will continue to do.
So since you have limited access to the campus, I assume that dances, field trips, and things of that sort are out this year so far.
We're going to virtually dance. We're going to have dances virtually. At this time, there are no field trips, there are no dances, there are no anything that's going to unmitigate or help us to not mitigate. We're not going to do. The main thing is to keep our staff and students safe and healthy. So no field trips at this time, no dances, but hey, our convocation is going to be virtual. We're having a virtual convocation. So we're going to have a great time and welcome everyone back. And we're going to sing and woo-hoo, we're going to do all kinds of things virtually. So we've embraced it. It's going to be great. And that's the environment that we're in, and we're going to be successful in it.
Okay, now earlier you mentioned about wearing the mask as they enter the school. So do they have to wear the mask all day, or once they get in their classrooms, can they demask, or how are you going to go about that?
Oh, no, it's an all-day situation. We're going to go full throttle. You can't walk in with the mask and then take it off when you're sitting in a classroom. The mask has to be on. There's some things that we're looking at doing that may help us to remove the mask once a student is seated at their desk. Some things that we're looking at, but at this time, when they walk in, they need to be masked and masked all day. So a good rule of thumb is that they may start practicing with their mask at home right now. Don't wait to come to school and learn how to put the mask on. Parents need to give students masks, help them to get accustomed to it, especially our elementary students. They need to have masks on right now and learning to wear them all day long. Increase the time that they wear them daily. Don't wait till they get to school where we have to try to implement and get them accustomed to doing something that they could be doing at home.
Okay, so let's talk about social distancing. How will you social distance in the classroom?
Well, we're looking at moving out desk. We're looking at not having, and once we have the data as to how many students are going to be instructed virtually as opposed to face-to-face, we will be able to construct and create different types of rooms. But until we get that data, we're really, really not sure yet. We do know they have to be set apart. But I'm going to say this. I do not think, and I don't know this for sure, I don't have the data, but I really don't think that there's a school in this that has been built in the United States of America that is actually best for 6 feet apart. I don't know of any schools that have enough room where they can be 6 feet apart in a classroom, at least a school, elementary, secondary classroom. So we're going to do our very best. And it just depends on the number of students that come back to us as to what options we have. We do have options of gymnasiums that we can have instruction in, cafeterias that we can have instruction in, as well as laboratories, computer labs. So there are a lot of things we have to just be creative with, and we'll see once we get the numbers in.
Okay, so then the next question would be, will you have enough staff in order to carry out that social distancing for the classrooms?
And we hope to. We hope to have the staff that we had on last year. We were talking yesterday. We're just elated at the medical profession, how they've embraced COVID. They didn't run away from it. We know there's some questions from teachers, and some of those teachers are concerned about coming back. And we're concerned as well. And we want them to feel safe coming back into their classrooms. However, we're going to all have to do our part. And now we understand that teachers are concerned that we may have some teachers with health issues that are concerned about some things, and we understand that. And what we're saying to teachers and staff members across the district is that you need to figure out what you want to do. Talk to your spouse, talk to your children, try to get an understanding of how you want to come back, if you want to come back. If you do not feel healthy enough, or if there's something that you feel may impede your life, please don't come. We don't want that for you, and we respect your decision. But we need everyone on board. If when we have students to come back to school, we're going to have staff members to greet those students and do what they need to do in order for us to be successful. We need the transportation department. We need a custodial department, maintenance, teachers, paraprofessionals, secretaries. We need everyone on board in order to help us to teach children. Once again, we understand if you have health ailments that you cannot come to work. We understand that if your spouse tell you that this is just not a good time, I want you to stay home. We respect that and we embrace it. But we cannot pay staff members to stay at home because you're scared. And I don't mean to sound rough with that. I don't mean to sound insensitive, but we can't do it. We can't say, okay, you really are not comfortable with coming to work, so you stay at home the rest of the year and we'll pay you. This is federal money. We can't just give you money to stay home. And I don't know how else to say that. So we're going to do everything we can to help you to feel safe and help you to be safe. But we're going to have to do this together.
Okay, so let's talk about busing. So what's the plan and policies for busing?
Busing, at first we heard that there was going to be one student every other seat. Well, we understand we would bus students all day long trying to get them here. The first asking is for parents to be responsible for getting their students to school if possible. We want them to get up and get their kids here if they can. If they can't, we do know that family members can be seated on one seat. And we've heard recently that if students have a mask on, they may be able to sit one seat, every seat occupied with one passenger. So we'll see what the CDC guidelines tell us by August 18th. But we are going to social distance on the bus, and we'll make as many trips back and forth as we have to. But we definitely have to get to school, and we don't want the kids out there at 4 a.m. trying to catch the bus to get here. And we definitely don't want to try to bring them back home at 8 or 9 at night trying to get them back home. So we're going to have to come to some type of collective understanding of how we can get students back and forth utilizing parents and our transportation department.
Okay, now will you limit the entry points into each school?
Yes, we already, principals are working. We have given them a parameter plan, and they're looking at their individual schools as to how they're going to have students walking into the school. They'll have different entry points, exit points. We're going to have signs as to how you walk down halls, how you walk up and down stairs. So everything will be lined out. It'll be there. It'll be labeled, so they'll be able to understand exactly what they're going to do. And the first couple of weeks will just be learning a new routine, learning how you walk in a classroom, how you walk in a hallway, what are the procedures for restroom usage. You know, a lot of our kids don't wash their hands. Well, this is a must. You're going to have to wash your hands all day long. We have sanitizers that's going to be at every exit and entrance. When you walk in, you're going to put your hand under the sanitizer, sanitize your hand. Even if you've just finished washing your hands, sanitize again. Before you eat, after you eat, when you walk into the restroom, after you walk into the restroom. We've gone around and made sure that every restroom in our district has warm water, because we do know it just feels better to have warm water and soap. We have to train our children to not, and I'll say maybe we're the only district that has that issue. We train our kids not to knock off the soap dispensers off the wall, but keep the soap dispenser, because the soap dispenser is there for your health. So please keep the soap dispenser on the wall and not knock it on the floor, and try to keep them and have our custodians walking all the time, cleaning all of the time. So a lot of this is going to have to be self-directed, and we're going to have to do a lot of work with our students to help them to understand that.
Okay, so since registration begins today. So let's just say that a parent decides that they want to do virtual learning, but midway through they decide, no, you know what? I want them to go face to face. Is that possible?
It is possible. However, parents, when they decide on one of the modes of learning, they will have to keep that mode of learning for the first 9-week period. 2 weeks before the end of the 9-week period, they will have an option to change. But for 9 weeks, they will have to stay with that mode of instruction.
Okay, now let's talk about the elephant in the room. What are we going to do about football in Texas?
Well, I've read today, yesterday I was reading how Louisiana has cut football off for the first semester, I think, or for the year. I think another school district in the Houston area has removed football. Football is important to our students. However, living, I think, is a little bit more important. Keeping safe is important as well. So we're going to move forward as long as we possibly can. But there may come a time where we have to make that decision as to cut football or cut all sports this school year. That's not off the table. And we're okay with that if it comes to that, because we know there's more to life than athletics. I hate to say that, but where students have to learn to read, students have to learn to live. I mean, that we appreciate sports. We want sports out there, but I don't know how you can mitigate the coronavirus if you're that close and rolling on the ground and tackling one another. I don't know how it can be done, but we're going to wait to see what the UIL says, and we're going to follow our UIL rules. We understand that athletics have kept some of our students at bay, but we're going to have to hone into them. We're going to have to get to know them a little bit more. We've got to build relationships with them and let them understand that, hey, we're going to get back to this, but at this moment in time, there's a pause. And we just have to learn to deal with pause. And a lot of this, even for all of us, for adults as well, is a learning experience on life. You know, things can go along so well for so long, but then when there's a challenge, we have to learn to deal with the challenge and overcome the challenge. And it's a great lesson for our children. But first, our adults have to embrace it as well, because we cannot be vacillating back and forth trying to understand things and do some things that are just not common sense type strategies, and allow our students to see that and expect that they will be young men and women that we want them to become. So it's about modeling what we're expecting, and adults will just have to do that. And if football is taken off the table, adults will have to embrace that and not allow students to think that it's such a wrong, it's the worst thing that has happened in America, because it actually is not.
So what about the babies, the pre-K? You know, the babies take naps during the day. So how are you going to social distance the pre-K students to take naps?
Okay, let me say this. I don't know where you've been, but Texas, we don't take naps anymore. We're into STAR. We don't take. They got to learn how to read and write and multiply. When you're 3 years old, you don't take a nap. You got to learn your name, your mama's name. Your mama's name can't just be mama. Your mother has a name. Your father has a name. Your grandparents. You need to know how to add two things together, so we don't have time for napping.
No more naps. Oh my goodness.
Nap. You can sleep at home. That's what parents need to put students to bed at 8 o'clock at night and wake them up at a decent time in the morning. You don't come to school to sleep. You can take naps at home, but at school, you have to take a STAR test. But anyway, you have to learn to read and write.
Okay, Doc. What about? Now, are you going to set up one-way halls, traffic designations in the schools?
Yes, we are. And I'll get back to your question. Like I said, they're not sleeping, but they're going to be social distancing as well. And we do have shields that we're going to maybe try with our younger students, because we know that's kind of difficult for them to wear masks every day. So we're going to try to work it out where everyone is comfortable. And yes, we will have signs that tell you which way. We'll have hall monitors and teachers that are going to help us to get our children to become accustomed to how they walk in the halls.
Okay. So what about special ed, ESL, bilingual, and your 501 students?
Yes, all of those are important. And then we're looking at how our special needs students will be accommodated. Actually, they're coming back as well. We're going to service all students in the best way possible. If those students need virtual learning, or if they choose virtual learning, that's what we'll do. If they need to come back, we're going to be ready to welcome them with open arms. Obviously, our critical care students, we will put some emphasis on them to keep them safe when they come to school and when we return them back to their parents. But it's not a if and or but. We need to address every student in the Port Arthur community, whether that is virtual or face to face. And we're going to accommodate every need in this district.
Okay, so Doc, since they can't sleep, can they still have lunch?
Of course they can have lunch. We serve free breakfast and lunch. Now, we're not sure if they're going to be able to go to the cafeteria or not. They may have to eat in their classrooms, but we want them to eat. We're still feeding children. We know that a lot of students come to school to have a balanced meal. So we're going to have delicious meals every day for them.
Okay,
Yes.
so if they have the lunch in their classrooms, how does the teacher get a break from the students?
We've been talking to some teachers. How is that going to happen? Because I get a duty-free lunch, and I know Dr. Porter is not going to take my duty-free lunch. Of course, we're not going to take your duty-free lunch. We're going to have we're going to work it out. I'm not exactly sure how at this point we're going to work it out. There are going to be a lot of breaks. We may have to hire more people to come in. We may have to hire teachers and paraprofessionals that are going to just go from class to class, coordinated throughout the day in order for teachers to get their break, their 45-minute prep break and their lunch break. But we want teachers to work with us now. We understand that teachers get a duty-free lunch, but every now and then we would expect teachers to say, okay, I don't need a break today. I can cover somebody else's class, or I can help in this area. Because I'm going to say this, from March 16th to the present, our staff members have not missed one check, even when they were home. So, and we were adamant to make sure that they didn't have to worry about a check. They didn't have to worry about their bills. They received the same check as they had received when they were here. So in that case, I expect the same loyalty from my staff members to help us to get over this challenge. We're going to take care of our staff members, and we want our staff members to be loyal to us, this district, and help us as a team to get through this challenge.
Last question, Doc. You mentioned finances. How has this pandemic affected the financial condition of the district?
Well, of course, we're okay, and the state. We have the CARES Act money that was given to us, and it is not extra money. It is only what it did. It helped us to balance out, because obviously on March 16th, that's when ADA stopped and our state funding lowered. So the CARES Act funds just is helping us to keep everything balanced and keep everything moving. Obviously, we've had some extra expenses, and there are some grants out there that can help us that the government has placed out there between the time we closed through March the 20th that will help us to get some refunds back from the monies that we've spent. But there's been a lot of extra expenses, that unforeseen expenses that we've had to take. And we don't mind doing that for our students, for our community. It's just making sure that our budgets are in line and we understand how to maneuver our money.
Okay, today is registration. So how does a parent register, and can they register online or in person? And and then I'm gonna let you get back to work.
Okay. Well, no, don't come in person. You register only online, and then we even have animation that will show you how to register line by line. And we have a help desk number that you can call in to get help if you need help with registration. So if you just take your time, it's really, really simple. And the main questions we need our parents to answer is to please answer the questions of phone number, email address, living address, whether your children will have face-to-face, asynchronous, or synchronous learning. We need those questions answered before you submit. So just we need to communicate with you, but it's very, very simple. And if you have questions or concerns, all you have to do is call that number, look at the animation, and then we'll help you. So it's not that difficult. But every parent must register their children for the 2021 school year.
So where do they go, Doc? What's the website?
www.paisd.org. It is right there. You can call our number, area code 409-989-6222, and we'll direct you to the proper individual.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank Dr. Portery for taking the time to come and talk to us today about what's going on in the Port Arthur Independent School District. Now, parents, again, today is registration. Go to the Port Arthur Independent School District website and make sure you're registered. Put all the correct information in so that they can make the necessary decisions on how they're going to develop the class sizes and things of that sort. So again, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for joining us on what's happening in our neighborhood, and we'll see you next time on our broadcast. Now I have one question for you. What's happening in your neighborhood?